Let me tell you something that could save you from a nightmare you never saw coming. Police show up at your door. They're pounding. They're yelling. They say they have a warrant. Your heart is racing. Your hands are shaking. And in that moment, most people make a mistake that destroys their case before it even begins. They open the door. I've been practicing law for years, and I've seen it happen over and over again. Good people, innocent people, who think that cooperating means opening up and letting officers do whatever they want. And then they call me weeks later, devastated, asking if there's anything we can do. Sometimes there is, but sometimes the damage is already done. So today, I'm going to teach you exactly what to say when police claim they have a warrant, word for word. Because knowing your rights isn't just important. It could be the difference between walking free and losing everything. First, let's talk about what's really happening when police show up claiming they have a warrant. They're not there to have a conversation. They're not there to get your side of the story. They are there to execute a legal document that a judge has signed, giving them permission to either arrest someone or search a specific place for specific things. But here's what most people don't understand. Just because an officer says they have a warrant doesn't mean they actually do. Just because they have a piece of paper doesn't mean it's valid. And just because they're police doesn't mean they're following the law. I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. And if you don't protect yourself, nobody else will. So here's the first thing you need to say, and this is crucial. When police knock on your door and claim they have a warrant, do not open the door immediately. Instead, speak to them through the door. You can crack a window if you have one. You can talk through the door itself, but do not open it. And here's exactly what you say. Officer, I hear you. I'm not opening the door right now. If you have a warrant, please slide it under the door or hold it up to the window so I can read it. That's it. Calm, respectful, clear. Now, some of you are thinking, won't that make them angry? Won't that make things worse? And I get it. We've been conditioned to think that questioning police is dangerous or disrespectful. But let me be very clear. You have a constitutional right to verify that a warrant is legitimate before you allow anyone into your home. And any officer who gets angry at you for exercising that right is showing you exactly why you need to be careful. When they slide that warrant under the door or hold it up, you need to actually read it. Don't just glance at it. Don't assume it's fine because it looks official. Read every single word. And here's what you're looking for. First, check the address. Is it your address? I've seen cases where police executed a warrant at the wrong house because the address was wrong or because they misread the numbers. If that address doesn't match exactly where you are, that warrant is not valid for your location. Second, check the date. Warrants expire. If that warrant is old, if it's been sitting around for months or years, it might not be enforceable anymore. Most search warrants have to be executed within a specific time frame, usually 10 days from when they're issued, though this varies by jurisdiction. Third, check what the warrant actually authorizes. Is it a search warrant or an arrest warrant? If it's an arrest warrant, whose name is on it? If it's a search warrant, what are they allowed to search for? Where are they allowed to search? These details matter enormously. Here's a real example. I had a client where police showed up with a search warrant for drugs. The warrant specified they could search the main house. They did that. But then they also went into a detached garage, a completely separate structure, and found evidence they used against my client. We got that evidence thrown out because the warrant didn't authorize them to search the garage. It said the house, not the property, not the premises, the house. That level of detail saved my client. So after you've read the warrant, if something looks wrong, here's what you say. Officer, this warrant appears to have an issue. The address doesn't match, or this warrant is expired, or this warrant doesn't authorize what you're trying to do. I do not consent to you entering my home. Now let's pause right there, because I need to explain something vital. When you say, I do not consent, you're not physically stopping them. If they decide to come in anyway, you're not going to fight them. You're not going to block the door with your body. You are simply making a verbal statement that creates a legal record. Why does this matter? Because if that warrant turns out to be invalid, anything the police find can potentially be suppressed in court. That means it can't be used as evidence against you, but only if you clearly stated you did not consent. If you opened the door, if you said, "Come on in," if you acted like everything was fine, you've just made it much harder to challenge what they found. Let me give you another scenario. Let's say the warrant looks legitimate. It's the right address, the right date, it authorizes what they're trying to do, you verified it, now what? Here's what you say. I understand you have a valid warrant. I am not consenting to any searches beyond what is specified in this warrant. I am invoking my right to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney. Let me break down why each piece of that statement matters. I am not consenting to any searches beyond what is specified in this warrant. This is critical. Police will often try to exceed the scope of a warrant. They'll search places they're not authorized to search. They'll look for things they're not authorized to look for. By making this statement, you're creating a record that you limited their authority to exactly what the warrant says. I am invoking my right to remain silent. This is your Fifth Amendment right. Once you invoke it, police are supposed to stop questioning you. Not supposed to, legally required to. But they'll try anyway, which is why you need to be firm and clear. I want to speak to my attorney. This is your Sixth Amendment right. Once you ask for a lawyer, questioning is supposed to stop immediately. Now, here's what's going to happen next. They're going to keep talking to you. They're going to say things like, if you have nothing to hide, why do you need a lawyer? Or, we're just trying to clear this up, help us out. Or, my personal favorite, this will go a lot easier for you if you cooperate. Do not fall for it. These are interrogation tactics. They're designed to make you talk. And anything you say can and will be used against you. Not might be, will be. So here's what you say in response to any and all questions. I am invoking my right to remain silent. I will not answer any questions without my attorney present. And then, and this is the hardest part, you stop talking. You don't explain, you don't justify, you don't tell your side of the story, you be quiet. I know that feels impossible. Humans are wired to defend themselves, to explain, to make people understand. But in this situation, your words are weapons that will be used against you, so you stay silent. Now let's talk about what happens if the police have an arrest warrant instead of a search warrant. An arrest warrant means they have legal authority to take a specific person into custody. If that person is you, here's what you need to know. First, verify it's actually for you. Ask them to confirm the name on the warrant. If it's your name, if the warrant is valid, you're going to be arrested. There's no talking your way out of it. There's no explanation that's going to change that. So don't try. Here's what you say. I understand there's a warrant for my arrest. I will comply peacefully. I am invoking my right to remain silent and I want to speak to my attorney. And then you comply. You put your hands where they can see them. You follow instructions. You do not resist. Because resisting arrest is a separate crime, and it gives officers justification to use force against you. But even as you're complying, even as you're being handcuffed, you keep repeating those magic words. I am invoking my right to remain silent. I want to speak to my attorney. They're going to keep asking you questions. In the car, at the station. They're going to tell you that your lawyer is going to cost too much, that a public defender won't care about your case, that if you just explain what happened, this will all go away. It's all lies. Every word of it. Your attorney, whether private or public, is the only person in that building who is legally obligated to protect your interests. The police are not on your side. The prosecutor is not on your side. Even if they seem nice, even if they seem understanding, their job is to build a case against you. So you say nothing. Let me tell you about a case that illustrates why this matters so much. I had a client, a young guy, early 20s. Police showed up at his apartment with a search warrant. They were looking for stolen electronics. He panicked. He opened the door immediately. He let them in. And because he was nervous, because he wanted to seem cooperative, he started talking. He told them where things were. He explained how he got certain items. He thought he was helping himself by being honest. But every single word he said was used to build the case against him. Things that could have been explained away, things that could have been challenged, became concrete evidence because he admitted to them. We managed to get some charges reduced, but he ended up with a conviction that's going to follow him for the rest of his life, all because he talked when he should have stayed silent. Don't be that person. Now, let's talk about a few special situations. What if police claim they don't need a warrant? What if they say they have probable cause or exigent circumstances? Here's the truth. There are exceptions to the warrant requirement. If police believe someone inside is in immediate danger, if they're in hot pursuit of a suspect, if they believe evidence is being destroyed right now, they can enter without a warrant. But just because they claim an exception doesn't mean it's legitimate. So here's what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. If you believe you have legal authority to enter without a warrant, I am not going to physically stop you, but I am stating clearly that I do not consent. That statement does two things. It preserves your Fourth Amendment rights, and it keeps you from being charged with obstruction. What about if they ask you to step outside? Don't do it. Once you step outside, you've left the protection of your home. They can detain you, question you, even search you much more easily. So if they ask you to step outside, here's what you say. I prefer to stay inside my home. If you have a warrant, please show it to me. They might get pushy. They might get loud. Stand your ground. You're not being difficult. You're exercising your rights. Here's another scenario. What if someone else let the police in? Maybe you have a roommate, a family member, someone else who answered the door and said, sure, come on in. This is tricky. If that person has authority over the space, if they're a co-tenant or co-owner, their consent might be enough to allow police to search common areas. But it doesn't give police the right to search your private room if you have one, and it doesn't mean you have to answer questions. So even if they're already inside, you still say, I do not consent to any searches of my private areas. I am invoking my right to remain silent. I want to speak to my attorney. Let's also address what happens after the search is over. Police are required to give you a copy of the warrant and an inventory of anything they took. Make sure you get both. Read the inventory carefully. If something is listed that they didn't actually take, or if something is missing that they took but didn't list, document it immediately. Take photos of any damage they caused. Write down the names and badge numbers of every officer who was there. Write down everything that was said, everything that happened, as soon as possible while it's fresh in your memory. This documentation can be critical for your defense. Now, I want to address something I hear all the time. People say, but if I act like this, won't the police think I'm guilty? Won't it make me look like I have something to hide? Let me be absolutely clear about this. Exercising your constitutional rights is not evidence of guilt. It's not suspicious. It's smart. And any officer who treats it as suspicious is violating the most basic principles of our legal system. You know who asks for lawyers? Innocent people who understand how the system works. You know who talks without lawyers? People who end up convicted of crimes they didn't commit. The absolute truth is this. Police want you to talk because it makes their job easier. Prosecutors want you to waive your rights because it makes their job easier. But their job is not to protect you. Their job is to enforce the law and secure convictions. Your job is to protect yourself. And the only way to do that is to remain silent and get an attorney. Let me leave you with this. Every single word I've told you today is about protecting your constitutional rights. Rights that people fought and died for. Rights that exist specifically to protect you from government overreach. Using them isn't rude. It isn't uncooperative. It's exercising the freedoms that define our country. So remember these key phrases. If you have a warrant, slide it under the door so I can read it. I do not consent to any searches. I am invoking my right to remain silent. I want to speak to my attorney. Say them clearly. Say them firmly. Say them every single time. Because when police show up at your door claiming they have a warrant, these words might be the only thing standing between you and disaster.